No, I think we're good to get started.
Okay, perfect.
So
So
I think that it would be great to just explain to the community the purpose of these spotlights. So as everyone knows, we're all eager to start C.o.R.E, and this is a great community. This is a great way to also expose to the community the protocols that will run, get an overview of each one of the protocols, and essentially get an outlook of how we can cooperate and create synergies with our future reactors.
Yep, well said. All right, thanks, Sharp. Cool. Well, Hatashi, I'll kick things over to you. Really appreciate you joining us today. Can you give a quick intro on StakeDAO to our fellow pilots here in the audience?
Yeah, for sure. I'd be more than happy to. I think, first of all, thank you for having me. I think speak for all of us at StakeDAO, and I say we're big fans of what's going on with the Tokemak ecosystem and looking forward to C.o.R.E. For those of you unaware, so StakeDAO is a platform that provides staking solutions, smart contract strategies, as well as NFTs and some structured products. If I had to do it in a one-liner, I'd basically say it's a place where people that are a little bit technical and also not technical at all can get access to some of the best yield in DeFi. So we've been live for just over, I think, a year and 4 or 5 months. We launched just before, I guess, like all of the craziness with the NFT summer wave, and probably just after the first wave of DeFi summer. At the moment, I think we have just over 600 million in TVL, and that's split across staking, so proof of stake validator services, as well as the sort of smart contract strategies, which I mentioned earlier, typically built on top of C.o.R.E over, I think, 5 or 6 different networks. So of course we're biggest on ETH mainnet, but we've also expanded to Polygon, Celo, Harmony, BSC, all of the majors, Solana as well. And yeah, I mean that's kind of like a quick rundown about StakeDAO. Myself, been there since before we launched the project. Some of you might be aware of Julian Bouteloup. This is kind of his brainchild. So since 2017, he had this vision of a staking platform which enabled anyone without any technical knowledge to get access to some of the yields which DeFi offers. And consequently, we built out StakeDAO as well as adding some extra stuff like our arbitrage strategies, flash loans, etc. And we managed to get a C.o.R.E whitelist. So we do offer the boosted yield from that to all of our users as well. So then, yeah, we launched, and I mainly lead product and growth at StakeDAO. Been there for full-time as a DAO contributor for just under 2 years, and I guess in the space for just under 5. But yeah, that's I guess a quick ELI 5.
That's awesome. Thank you for the explanation. One follow-up in there. I'm curious how you guys are helping like those non-technical users or maybe even non-crypto users potentially gain access to those staking yields. Is that something that you've thought about and are working on integrating into your roadmap, just making it more accessible to the masses?
Yeah, definitely. So actually, that was one of the main aims of StakeDAO when we launched it. We really wanted anyone, like your typical mom and pop, to be able to get access to some of the yield that we all enjoy, whilst making sure that they're safeguarded against depegging tokens or like unlimited approvals, etc. So we approached this in 2 ways. One was by product design, so making sure that everything was explained in the UI in non-technical terms. So rather than saying like, I don't know, SDAM3 curve, like unwrap it, go to curve, and deposit, stake in the gauge, all of that kind of stuff. We tried to build a really easy UX. So through the UI, you don't really need to know anything about what's going on in the underlying. You just see like a button which says like deposit, stake, etc. But we actually saw that in DeFi in particular, there weren't that many, let's say, like crypto non-native or retail users at the time of launch. So we had to shift our strategy a little bit to be suited around DeFi degens. So probably some of the people on this call who are relatively familiar with DeFi and just want access to yield without having to explore a little bit too much. And in order to still target and onboard new users into DeFi, we integrated a few different features such as like magic login. We also started the StakeDown Academy, which is a totally free resource that lets people understand and undertake learning pathways. So from stuff which is really, really basic, like, what is proof of stake? What is Ethereum? Going up into more complex topics such as like, what is Curve? How does a AMM work? What is a strategy, etc. And those learning pathways actually lead to something which we like to call like learn to earn. So the more and more you undertake the tasks on the academy and fill out the quizzes and whatever, you can get access to actually some rewards, like real monetary value. And we've seen roughly about 6,000 people using the site, which is great to see. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's totally free. And then on the other side, we've continued to build out the UX so that rather than having to almost understand what's going on in the underlying, a bit like Facebook and HTTPS, no one really knows how HTTPS works when you click like a like button, right? So we've tried to create an interface which provides a similar experience.
I think that's great. The educational piece is super smart because no one's going to use it if they don't understand even the basics. So
yeah,
kudos
exactly.
to you for that.
And it's all about onboarding new people into DeFi as well,
Yep. Growing the pie instead of fighting over what already exists today. I think we all see the potential and where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Super helpful introduction. Was curious if you could speak on why you're interested in a Tokemak reactor and sort of any general thoughts or struggles or just your experience with liquidity and why you see that being important for StakeDAO.
Yeah, definitely. I think, liquidity is and always has been and probably will continue to be the central, let's say, narrative anywhere. Like if you look at traditional markets, liquidity is what enables a lot of what's already built on top to be like a fluid, efficient market. And we see the same thing in DeFi. I think in terms of our own experience, what we've kind of seen the full spectrum. So in the beginning, when we launched, liquidity mining was very, very popular. So pushing rewards into SushiSwap, Uniswap, and then of course there was the Sushi token. So relying on another protocol's emissions to be able to build out your own liquidity, because naturally that's actually a big part of ensuring that a protocol and ownership of the protocol's governance tokens remains, I guess, permissionless to some extent. Since if you don't have that much liquidity, then users have a lot of problems exiting, claiming their yield, or even entering the space. So yeah, we see it as hugely important. I think with the strategies, it's always easy for users to exit. But as I mentioned, like with regards to governance and claiming yield, those liquidity, I guess, events are important to be able to let anyone have access to. So yeah, we shifted from the liquidity mining model to going into something which is a little bit more centered around protocol and liquidity, working very closely with Olympus. Pretty sure we were one of the first partners there, and we managed to scale total liquidity for the protocol around 10 to 15 million, which was very good for us. And I think since protocol-owned liquidity has matured and the whole Olympus ecosystem has seen its life cycle, I guess, and enter a new phase, we have been very closely watching Tokemak and the ability to have liquidity on demand. I think this is something which is really, really important for us, particularly given our focus on permissionless and sort of decentralized methods of being able to provide people access to the token. So rather than going onto a centralized exchange, maintaining our distribution across Uniswap, Curve, SushiSwap, and a core-through reactor would, of course, enable us to actually direct liquidity against our token whilst continuing to maintain the protocol-owned liquidity. I think one of the really important things about SDT is it goes beyond the governance token now. So we recently launched the liquid lockers, which are essentially perpetually staking governance tokens for any protocol that implements VE tokenomics. And within that, what we've done is abstracted away some governance power into the SDT token, which lets any holder of SDT be able to participate in the governance of whatever underlying locker there may be. So you can think of it like CVX and Curve, but for everything. So therefore, you can imagine the the provision of liquidity for SDT is extremely important, and actually provides a nice yield for anyone. Some of the other things which we're looking into is enabling people that are providing liquidity to continue to participate in governance. And yeah, I mean, for all of those reasons above, it just makes sense to pursue a solution like Tokemak, where we can utilize our governance power across the ecosystem and some of the toke which we've accrued to be able to maintain liquidity for all of our tokens, not just SDT, but looking beyond and seeing if we can get toke staked SDCRV. So if you're participating in the locker, you also get that additional level of yield. I think Liquidity Wizard's paper, which defines the different stages, is really something which was quite phenomenal. And yeah, we're doing everything we can to move towards sort of like a stage 6, stage 7 protocol.
That's great. You're touching on some things that we're going to play very nicely with. Sharp, I'm wondering if you could hop in here and respond, since I know this is your area of expertise.
Yeah, so essentially, like on this regard, something that I would like to emphasize is that I've been a StakeDAO user on the Frax vault that you guys had. So when I saw that you guys were also entering the liquid lockers, it's a very interesting product and very eager to see how it plays out, specifically with Angle. And I was also curious to know if you guys are considering to, for example, use the token that you accrue to also support strategic partners that you might have in your own liquid lockers, for example, like Angle and others that are present and that will be present, because I assume that you will expand the liquid lockers eventually to protocols like APWine and others that adopt V tokenomics.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, first of all, great to hear that you're a user, and if you have any feedback, would love to kind of discuss it. We're always very open to iterating and refactoring anything that we've deployed. And yeah, you're spot on. So that's exactly what we'll be doing. We're very much seeing tokens rather than like yield, as it's kind of seen in DeFi, the FTXs or whatever, just farming and dumping. We really want to partner with protocols and help them to achieve their purpose. So the toke that we farmed, yes, the whole point is to be able to direct it to anyone, not only partners, but literally anyone who has SDT or any of the other things within our ecosystem, to be able to direct liquidity wherever the market feels it's more efficient. And I guess like a little bit of alpha, although we started with Angle, FXS, and Curve for our liquid lockers, we will soon be making it permissionless. So we're going under audit at the moment, but so anyone can request to deploy a SD version of whatever locker may exist permissionlessly, and then the lockers of SDT will be able to vote to direct emissions, liquidity, and also, boosted rewards, let's say, to any of the strategies based off of the underlying. In particular answer to your question, that means, let's say, Angle or FXS, if they hold a certain amount of SDT, they will get a proportional allocation, depending on how deeply we go into the Tokemak ecosystem, where they can utilize our toke to direct liquidity for their token.
That's awesome. So essentially, you can use SDT as this meta governance token that will direct inflation to whoever controls the most SDT within your liquid lockers, right?
Yeah, so rather than being 100% on whoever has the most, it will be proportional based on the voting. So a lot like Curve, but yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, and it would be awesome to see new projects also being listed permissionlessly. And that's also something that we are striving to achieve at Tokemak, a permissionless listing of reactors. And
yeah,
something
man,
that I would like to add.
Eagerly anticipating. I've been following Tokemak very closely for a few months. Eagerly anticipating the permissionless deployment.
there are new exciting tokenomics, and everything will fit together to enable precisely that. And touching on a very interesting comment that you had regarding Sam and his comments about just farming and dumping on each other, I think that we are seeing an evolution within DeFi, which is the rise of DAO-to-DAO interactions. Well, this rise of DAO-to-DAO interactions entails that, given that we can have long-term goals between different protocols, we stop dumping on each other and we actually build, striving to achieve our goals together. And this is something that someone like FTX or Alameda that just farms and dumps for profit wouldn't be able to highlight within their strategies. But for us, protocols that are cooperating to increase our composability and build a better DeFi ecosystem, that's definitely something that I'd like to emphasize for the whole community to take into consideration. And we are seeing that with the entire V tokenomics, they thrive when new protocols converge to this new Schelling point, right? So you are starting to see more and more protocols to understand the importance of actually building towards a common goal. And that's something that will benefit all of us.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all of our partner protocols can attest, but you guys are also more than welcome to check on chain. Whenever we work with someone, we utilize their token for what it is rather than like yield. So we've never, dumped any tokens. We actually, so this is a little bit of alpha, but the strategies that we had previously, let's say the V1, they had auto compounding built on top of Curve. So, it would be selling Curve rewards, but now we've integrated many different protocols. So rather than auto dumping all of them, what we've done is sort of pass on the choice to the user. So what you can actually do is have all of the different tokens listed, and you can claim them, you can choose to auto dump them, you can choose to auto stake them into a locker, or just, even decide like any number of options for all of the different ones that you might accrue. So yeah, like going back to your comment earlier about meta governance, it's also kind of like meta yield in a way. And so, yeah, I mean, the end goal is really to encourage the utilization of tokens rather than, I guess, doing like net negative actions. But yeah, that actually all of that architecture is under audit at the moment with chain security, and that should be released within this quarter.
So
love it. Looking forward to seeing that one.
Plenty of alpha being distributed here today by StakeDAO. Yeah, I think that it's great to see new options being provided also on all of these protocols that provide strategies for their users in terms of vaults. And I'm sure that optionality will also be welcomed by everyone that uses your products, and myself included, because as I told you, I use the Frax vault. I'm a huge Frax fan, so I'm eager to see the developments that you guys have in store for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Hatashi, I got one more for you, and then I'd like to open it up to the audience. So if any of our listeners have any questions that they'd like to ask, hop into the Core3 channel on the left, drop them in there, and then we'll get you taken care of next. So ask away in text, and then we'll ask Hatashi. Lastly, Hatashi, I'm wondering if you could just opine on the general state of DeFi, where you see it going through this year, through next year. Like what does the next like year and a half in your mind for DeFi look like generally?
Sure, yeah, the very interesting question. So I think it's no secret that we are in a little bit of a lull, let's say. Like some people, Degen Spartan in particular, have been stable and are convinced that we're in month 16 of a 4-year bear market. I think some others have a little bit more of an optimistic view, but it wouldn't be unfair to say that yes, we went through like a very frothy market where pretty much every week a new DAO was launching, and it was the constant chase. Like, okay, are they going to do an airdrop? Should we utilize the platform before they do an airdrop? And then it was kind of like vulture capital. You farm, you dump, you get the airdrop, you dump that, move on to the next one. And those kind of situations aren't actually that good for innovation. naturally it's like a hype cycle. You're kind of seeing pretty much the same thing in NFT world these days. And DeFi has actually benefited from it, I think. Yes, we've had token valuations come down. Luckily, this has been really good, I think, actually, because it's taken away a lot of the froth, let's say. And yeah, it's been quite good for innovation. You know, we've seen lots of new projects come up, Tokemak included, who have innovated and iterated on the very basic concepts. Like if we think back just to even a year ago, we just had, you know, like the sushi x sushi contract, and it was like revolutionary. And if you look forward now, we have all of these amazing ways to direct liquidity, accrue yield, distribute yield, and yeah, I mean, overall, I think on the dev side, it's been a bull market, despite being a bearish or crab market in the dollar sense. I think one of the best things that we are seeing is a lot more B2B or D2D collaboration, which is seeing the release of new products and really like 3-3 behaviors between different DAOs. I think we can expect this to continue, really. You see it in like most economic cycles. Companies start to work together in more, let's say, economically challenging environments, and yeah, this is leading to greater innovation, better products for users, and I think it also helps to create better integration across the space. So even if you're a user of like one protocol, you benefit because the other protocol now has, let's say, your balance is like automatically updated, or you're working. Let's say it's like a lending protocol. You have your strategy, and then you can automatically borrow against it on the other platform. So I think like state of DeFi in the next 3 to 6 months is like really bullish. We still have a somewhat crazy, let's say, crazy market on the raising side. Like I'm seeing lots of different projects at like $200-300 million valuation for just an idea, and they're able to secure a lot of funding. So, I mean, the value of those projects is kind of like debatable and individual, but it's good to see that there's more traddy money, let's say, coming into the space. Because with that, although might come regulation, also does come a lot of smart people from Web 2, an increased presence of devs, and a different mindset focused on collaboration rather than farm and dump. So yeah, just touch wood, there's no wider existential shocks, then I think we should be looking for a very nice 3 to 6 months for everyone.
Great. That was trying to find my mic button. Yeah, good answer. I'm also optimistic, so eager to exit this crab market, and don't see any questions yet, so I'll ask another one. Why the choice of an elephant as the Stakedown mascot?
I literally asked myself that.
This question has come up a lot, and we still don't really have any other answer other than we just like elephants at the time. I mean, there was honestly, there wasn't that much thought that went into it. It was just like, okay, elephants are cool, let's pick that one. And yeah, but I mean, I think it's been a good choice. You know, they're wise, they're prudent, they're strong, but not aggressive, let's say. So it has a lot of like marketing congeniality. But yeah, no, other than that, no real reason. I have a question for you as well, actually.
Of course.
When brain?
If I only knew. I ask the Membrane team daily. I think they've muted me because I'm pestering them so much. So I too would like the answer to that question. I don't have it yet. They don't trust me. They know I leak. So
okay, I'll have to keep an eye on this.
I'll DM you once I know more. I promise.
Oh yeah, perfect.
I got one question.
I think one of the other cool things, I don't know if maybe you guys have an opinion on it or not, but one of the cool things that we were exploring was like a strategy to direct yield built on top of Tokemak. So this would essentially, I think, come into play later on when you guys have permissionless pools and permissionless liquidity direction, but something like almost like a pool together to direct liquidity. So users can all deposit and they can all decide to, accrue funds. And then there's like either a whitelist or there's just like a big list from all of the protocols that can receive liquidity from Tokemak, and users just vote. But it's built on top of Tokemak, so it could be a subset, like just DeFi protocols or just like NFT lending platforms or something like Rari or whatever. And for the user, it makes sense because they can adjust risk and define, I guess, categories of different types of blockchain protocols that might exist in their portfolio and benefit from the yield from this. I know there's a lot of like DAOs and also institutional funds looking to get exposure to just a specific asset class. So yeah, we were just thinking about that. Like, is that even possible with the new kind of architecture that you guys are working on?
Well, I would just ask something, which is, would you see, for example, a future where it would be possible to essentially crowdsource liquidity within that pool to newly founded projects? So let's say project ABC has launched today, they have a strong community, that community deposits into that pool, and they crowdsource the liquidity that is required to set up the pool 2 that's associated with project ABC.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's awesome. That would take like crowdsourcing liquidity to the next level, and it's definitely something that is possible to build on top of Tokemak. There are
Right,
a few
exactly.
other
Like I
protocols.
thought it would be really cool, like not only for newer projects, but also like, let's say projects which have died away, or like they have a strong community but they've been unable to scale liquidity for whatever reason. It could be like a nice way to even like rescue DAOs and incubate new DAOs and even support anything else. Because I know Tokemak doesn't have like the VE mechanism, but the voting works slightly differently. So I was thinking about something that could be built on top that enables that.
Definitely possible, and again, can't leak too much.
When, sir? When?
When soon. It's a shame that Tokemak. It's a shame that Tokemak is muted, because I know that you would like to have some comments on the crowdsourcing of liquidity to new projects part. That's definitely something that's possible, and we are very eager to discuss that.
Amazing.
So Hatashi, Mr. E from the audience has asked if you plan on using bribes to try to secure your Reactor. Previously, Votomac was used by a couple protocols, I believe AP Wine, Gamma, and Fox. So they incentivize token stakers to vote for them. So do you plan on using now Hidden Hand by Redacted in order to try to win a Reactor in C.o.R.E?
Well, before any comments, I should just say that C.o.R.E Spotlight, like one of the main goals here, is also to emphasize other components of the protocols that are running for C.o.R.E 3, besides just the bribes. So bribes are something that is external to Tokemak. It's something that we cannot control. These bribing strategies incur in risks, and protocols should be aware of that. And part of this initiative should also highlight the idiosyncrasies that each single one of the protocols that is running has.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll be very honest. Like I only have let's say like a basic understanding of how Votomac and Hidden Hand, I think that's Redacted, kind of works. But I did have a look in terms of what the number of votes that it takes to get a reactor is like monumental. Something around like 13, 14 million toke. So it would, yeah, I think that is an option which is on the table, but we would need to work out exactly what makes sense. Like dollar per vote, is it better to, open source and just send out some bribes to be able to get it, or does it work slightly better if we speak to some DAOs directly who already have voting power on Tokemak and kind of come to terms for agreement? But I mean, certainly like 14 million toke, especially at current valuation, is kind of no joke, right? And we don't have that many at the moment, so we would have to find an alternate solution. I guess, yeah. So was it Mr. E? Yeah, like in answer, probably. To be honest, man, probably we would have to end up using something like that.
Yeah, and to echo what Sharp said, we're officially neutral. We're not recommending. Ideally, we want the community to pick DAOs that have interesting use cases, are a little bit unique from maybe some of the other core winners to showcase other use cases for how we can provide liquidity to different markets. But ultimately, yeah, what adds the most value, what creates the most synergies, what's going to create the best long-term match. So the purpose of these AMAs is to try to like suss that out and make sure we're collaborating with people that have a mutual interest in the long term, not just trying to like pump their numbers in the short term. And based on today's call, it seems like, yeah, an excellent fit. I think this has been a really good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think like benefits for the Tokemak ecosystem, of course, like there's the meta governance angle and all of that stuff, which does scale beyond it. But I think one of the advantages is, of course, by having a reactor for SDT. I'm not sure if like Tokemak the DAO accrues the governance token that the reactor exists for. Is that the case, or is it kind of just like staked and you guys don't touch those tokens?
You mean the reserve that collateralizes the reactor? That's
Yeah, exactly.
That's also deployed to trading markets.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Because I mean, obviously, as people are kind of aping into the token and aping out of it to do all of the voting and benefit off of the bribes, then it means like more fees for Tokemak, which is always good for holders. And I think also we could see a world where we have the different curve pools for the lockers in Tokemak. So we just kind of work in, I think they're called T assets. Which of course helps scale Tokemak and grows the ecosystem. I think yeah, like the whole idea would be to continue scaling and providing more fees for users. Beyond that, as mentioned, like yeah, the bribe revenue, although that's like a external thing, that could be beneficial for anyone that does own Tokemak, just from a user perspective, separate from the protocol perspective. You'd be able to get additional revenues. And yeah, I mean, I see Tokemak as like quite revolutionary, so I think I'm a bit biased. But this method of liquidity direction is definitely good for us, and we'd be more than happy to incorporate any suggestions, be that from the community or other DAOs, which help create beneficial environments for both communities.
Yeah, I believe that bribing markets are inevitable on the long run to direct liquidity itself. For C.o.R.E, I would like to have like an unbiased choice of projects, but it's also great to see that projects are willing to put up economic incentives to secure a reactor. But hopefully we will see the permissionless reactors soon, and that will bring all new life to the Tokemak ecosystem.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, love it. Hatashi, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, does Tokemak have any plans to, I guess, enable additional rewards or like a form of bribing from like an in-house solution, or is that something which you guys are pretty set on keeping external?
Well, the answer to that, I would say that for now it should be external, but there might be some components that can be integrated in the new tokenomics that could bring some internal revenue. But regardless, value will always accrue to token holders that ultimately will receive the cash flow that is associated with the influence that's intrinsic to bribing.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That makes sense.
Great. Hatashi, I think it's been a great call. If one of our pilots wanted to learn more about StakeDAO, where can they go to learn more?
Sure. Yeah, I'd go to the Twitter page. It's just StakeDAO HQ. And from there, you can find pretty much everything. So links to our YouTube have like video explainers from the community explaining how the different strategies work. There's also some which are focused more on like what the DAO is and how the voting works. We also have a couple of like in-house videos which we've done to explain how the liquid lockers work. And then you have links to like everything, Gitbook, GitHub. If you want to review code or words or whatever is kind of to your taste, you should be able to find everything there. We also have a Discord and Telegram, so that's how you guys can engage with the community. Special shout out to Chago, Jean Brass, and Didi, who are some new guys who joined, and yeah, they'll be more than eager to answer any of your questions or even debate some of the more let's say hypothetical or strategy type of things going on in the space.
I would
Perfect.
also
Well, hey,
advise to check out StakeDAO's Academy. I read one of your articles on bribes, I think, and it was quite interesting, and especially for people that are starting out just to learn about DeFi, it's a great resource that I would emphasize.
Yeah, exactly. And if you go onto like stakedao.org and just scroll to the footer, you should be able to find links to literally everything. But yeah, also if you have any problems or questions and want to reach out, feel free to DM me here or on Twitter. And yeah, I'll try and get around to it as soon as possible.
We'll do
love it.
so.
Hatashi,
This was
thanks
a
for your time
great
today.
conversation, and thank you for joining us, and also everyone that's been present in the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to be here, guys. Always love talking Tokemak. So thank you very much for having me, and hopefully we chat again real soon.
Glad you're in core. All right. Thanks
Talk
for
to you
the
soon,
time
man.
today.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Thanks a lot. Ciao.
Bye.